Chapter 3, First Missions. As they walked, Lewis realized that he was in a beautiful city. Ancient, detailed, and charismatic buildings complemented the beauty of modern minimalism. Perfectly paved roads made of some resistant material gave the city a spectacular shine. The sound of footsteps echoed, even though there weren't many people walking around. Despite being a family city, it was incredibly large. They were close to their destination, so they soon arrived. "Come in, young sir. God is waiting for you inside." Jack stepped forward to open the door. God must be my father. His heart tightened. He felt nervous. Just then, Lewis felt his heart ache incredibly, and he staggered forward. Blag! A large stream of blood came out of his mouth. "Young master!" Jack quickly stepped forward to help him, his face filled with concern. But then, the god of thunder, London Lockward, appeared in front of them and stopped him. He looked at the blood on the ground and helped Lewis to his feet. A look of doubt crossed his face. Blood from the heart? London was confused. "Take off your shirt," he ordered immediately. Lewis used all his strength, his face contorted in pain, and took off his shirt. Where his heart had been, there was now a large pool of dark blood. London's eyes lit up. "The bandit's death," he whispered. He looked at Jack and signaled for him to leave. Then he grabbed Lewis and took him inside. "Did you fight someone?" London asked. "No." Lewis clenched his face. "I came straight here." "Did you meet anyone on the way?" He shook his head. "Strange. Only a monarch or a god could do this in front of everyone." "Who was it?" London suddenly struck Lewis's chest. Hold on." Then, suddenly, the flesh on his chest began to open strangely, and the accumulated blood began to flow out. His face contorted, his hands trembled, and his teeth clenched tightly to resist the pain. Blood even came out of his mouth. Until suddenly, it was over. The pain disappeared, and all that remained was a bloody ball in front of him, held in his father's hand. London slowly scrutinized it. No traces. London took a deep breath, and one of his rays destroyed the bloody ball. Then he looked at Lewis. His gaze seemed hesitant. He seemed to be fighting between what he wanted to do and what he had to do. But in the end, he sighed. "It doesn't matter." "You're useless," he whispered. He turned around and walked toward the door of the room. "Get ready and come to the Hall of Thunder in 30 minutes. The family has made a decision about your future," he declared before leaving. Every step that man took shook the place, as if many thunderbolts had struck at once. Even the entire mountain they stood on trembled in his presence. That was the divinity of a god. Intelligence, 10. Perception, innate 100. His eyes sparkled with interest. Statistics, levels, life, and mana. Wasn't this like in fantasy novels or RPG video games? As a fantasy lover, he had read and played many such stories. He was well aware of what each statistic meant. But his statistics were too low. Now it made sense why this boy was treated as the weakest of God's children. With such stats, it made perfect sense. But that didn't worry him, because now he had a class that would allow him to grow stronger with every step. "It will also make me rich." Imagining the many possibilities that lay before him, his mind wandered between the information he had and his memories of Earth. The possibility of becoming strong, would it give him the chance to get revenge someday? When he thought about it, something clicked in his mind. My little sister. He remembered a little girl who had been very attached to him since she was a baby. She was the youngest daughter of the god of thunder, his sister. She had awakened long before him, which caused quite a stir, as she could travel easily between worlds. Maybe she can help me get to Earth. His eyes shone brightly at the possibility of revenge. But his mind had wandered too far, 10 minutes to be exact. Shit, time. He remembered that his father had given him 30 minutes to get ready and go to the Thunder Hall. He quickly got up to get ready. Then, ding. Mission, get ready in less than 30 minutes. By orders of your father, the god of thunder, you must get ready in less than 30 minutes. The first 10 missions will receive a 1000% bonus. Previous reward, 1 system coin. New reward, 10 system coins. Time remaining, 21:30. Failing the mission results in 3 problems, a punishment from the God of Thunder. The system will not grant the reward, and you will incur 1 negative karma point. Accumulating negative karma can cause problems in the physical world, your strength, or how people perceive you. Failing missions is not recommended. Negative karma? He immediately became interested in that. No. He shook his head quickly. I'll look into it later. I only have 20 minutes. Then he went to get ready, interested in the 10 coins he would get. While he was showering, he looked at his chest. Although he felt no physical pain, his mind played tricks on him as he carefully handled that area, due to the pain he had felt before. He was afraid because he knew the secret technique used to attack him. It was a technique designed to kill people slowly, but this time they used it to destroy his heart. It must have been during the awakening ceremony because that is when he was able to reincarnate in a body that was already dead. But who would have used it on him, in a public place, and why? Despite the fear in his heart, he ignored it for now. 10 minutes later. Congratulations! You have completed the first mission. 10 system coins have been credited. You can use them in the system store. 1 stat point has been credited. Lewis quickly opened the system store to see, and he first saw an announcement from the system. 1 system coin is equivalent to 1 god coin or 100 million human coins. 100 million, his eyes shined. I think that was quite a lot of money in yens, the local currency of humans. Lewis nodded, but didn't dwell on the money for now. He focused on the store. But then, something got in his way again. To enter the path of God and ascend in the world, you must purchase the Path of Destiny Pass. The system will be configured according to your choice. But don't worry, you can change your selection later, in exchange for money. It will not affect your strengthening or understanding of the chosen path of destiny, as you can travel all of them, since you are not bound to them. Your only bond is money. 4 paths. Path of the Magician, several secondary paths. Path of the Swordsman, several secondary paths. Path of the Martial Artist, several secondary paths. Path of the Armamentalist, single path. Choose wisely, your first choice will be free. Lewis frowned, deep in thought. The destined paths were a person's profession. Would he devote himself to magic, swords, or martial arts? This was usually associated with your ability or class, you had no free choice. But he did. Even his father didn't have that free choice, being bound to the type of magic of thunder. He might become ridiculously strong if he could take advantage of this free choice. A person capable of being both a magician and a swordsman is not seen daily, but he could walk all 4 paths if he wanted to. Maybe I can reach the level of a god, he thought. His face lit up. Getting revenge would be easy then. Showing them that my life is so much better now would be the biggest blow to those bastards. He almost trembled with excitement. But first, he had to grow stronger, then take revenge. Besides, he might have enemies here, too, so he had to act cautiously. That's why he looked at his paths and knew this choice would be very important for his future. I'll choose the path when I return from talking to my father. He made up his mind. Then, ding! Mission issued, face your father, the god of thunder. Your father has something important to tell you. You must go and listen to everything he has to say without flinching. The first 10 missions will receive a 1000% bonus. Previous reward, 10 system coins. New reward, 100 system coins. Failing the mission results in 3 problems, a punishment from the God of Thunder. The system will not grant the reward, and you will incur 1 negative karma point. Good luck. Chapter 4, Banished from the Family. Within the Lockward family were different halls, each representing a family branch led by a god. Lewis's family branch was led by his father, who was also the leader of the Lockward family gods. This was the Thunder family branch. It was led by the god of thunder and 12 other elders of thunder. 2 of them are gods, the rest are all monarchs with their respective awakened powers. Most have something to do with thunder, lightning, rain, or electricity. This hall of thunder was close to his room, so he didn't have to run far to get there. When he arrived, there were guards all over the place. Young master, the leader god and the 12 elders are waiting for you. Lewis nodded. If the 12 elders were gathered, then the matter to be discussed today was serious. They rarely meet, as they are busy in other worlds. And this would be the first time he had seen them. His trembling hands revealed his nervousness, but he hid them under his cloak. He quickly suppressed his nervousness, remembering that the system had told him to face this without flinching. After a short walk, he entered the Hall of Thunder, which was behind a large wooden door enriched with powerful minerals. On the other side, a large hall came into view. It was built in the shape of an auditorium, but rounded. There were steps and rows of seats, one above the other in the form of a staircase, as if it were a courtroom. A rectangular table with 14 seats was in the middle of the room, just below a marble platform. 6 and 6 on each side and 1 at each end. Right now, 13 of those seats are occupied. Father, and the 12 elders. Seat number 14 was empty. This seat is usually occupied by one of Lewis's siblings, usually the eldest, second, or youngest sister. He had never used it before because he hadn't awakened. But now he had. Is it free for me? He thought. It would be a great joy to sit among gods like these. Lewis walked toward them and stopped on the other side of the table, where the empty seat was. Father. Elders. He greeted them respectfully, and a slight bow followed his greeting. Then he placed his hand on the chair and pulled it out to sit down. But then a lightning bolt flew across the table and struck his hand, singeing part of it. The pain was terrible and made him pull his hand away quickly. In shock, he looked at his father. The god of thunder sneered. When were you allowed to sit on a sacred chair? On your knees, 5 meters from the table, he said in a hollow voice. Lewis couldn't understand why his father was so angry, but the divine pressure that gripped his back and legs forced him to take several steps back, kneeling him without a chance to do anything. He had nothing to say. His breath faltered as he felt suffocated, but he managed to bow his head. Perhaps he should kneel first, he thought. London looked at the man on his right. He nodded and stood up. Then he walked over to where Lewis was standing. Lewis, he said. Lewis looked up when he was called. Uncle. He started to greet him respectfully. But suddenly his body arched backward as he was kicked in the stomach, breaking several ribs. His eyes nearly popped out of their sockets from the pain, and he writhed on the ground. Ah! An inaudible cry of pain escaped his mouth. God said 5 meters, said the man. How dare you disobey? Or is it that you can't even count anymore? He scolded him. Lewis barely heard him, as pain was raining over his body. He wanted to respond even so, I was forced to kneel there. How do you expect me to count? But he was completely out of breath, and the pain in his ribs was terrible. Enduring it without screaming was already a feat. He was angry, but he managed to calm down. He was standing before gods. Not some idiot. So, even though he was in pain, when he managed to catch his breath, he pressed his trembling hands against the floor and pushed his legs up. His whole body was shaking until he got to his knees. I apologize. His voice sounded deep and emotionless. He had come here thinking he would be treated like a normal human being, but it seemed he had been brought here to be humiliated. So there was no need to show a gentle or submissive attitude. He would kneel only because he had no other choice. Perhaps it wasn't the best thing to do, but he had always treated those who wanted to humiliate him with coldness. Finally, his uncle turned around and sat back down. Then silence reigned for 5 long minutes. You could hear even Lewis's uneven breathing in every corner. In addition, the sound of thunder and rain seemed to emerge from the environment. It wasn't raining, there were simply gods of thunder and rain in this place. After that short time, London took out a scroll. Lewis Lockward. You may rise, he said. Lewis clenched his teeth and closed his eyes. With all the willpower in his body mustered, he stood up. Even though his legs were shaking and his torso was contracting with pain, he was able to endure it, albeit with difficulty. The family has decided for you, London said. What plans does the family have for me? He asked. The elders seemed surprised and looked at him strangely. He can talk and act so tough despite that? Not bad. They even looked at the man who had just beaten him to see if he had been too soft a moment ago. But he was just as surprised. His father didn't care. He threw the scroll into Lewis's hand. Read it aloud. Without interruption. Lewis frowned and opened the scroll. His mind went blank momentarily, but a strange, cold breeze blew through his hair. He clenched his teeth, feeling as if he were becoming sentimental. Memories of his family when he was little came back to him. Lewis, accept the divine mandate in an oath by my blood. He clenched his teeth. I will never set foot on the ancestral lands again. Then he bit his tongue and spat blood on the designated spot. Finally, London nodded. Lewis, the lineage of the gods cannot be sullied by false gods, he declared, rising to his feet. Money can buy nothing, not even loyalty. For what can you do without power? Enjoy reigning over trash. A hint of mockery crossed his words before disappearing like lightning. The 12 elders looked at him thoughtfully. One of them, the one who had attacked him earlier, threw him a healing pill. Drink it and get out, he said, closing his eyes at the end of his words before disappearing. The rest of the elders followed him. And in less than 10 minutes, it spread throughout the region of the gods. For the first time in history, one of the sons of a god had been banished from the ancestral lands. With nothing, not even a surname. Lewis remained in the Hall of Thunder, motionless. The only thing in front of him was a system window congratulating him on completing the mission. Congratulations! You have completed the mission. 100 system coins have been credited. You have received 10 stat points. And a healing pill in his hand. The pain overwhelmed him, but he no longer felt that physical pain, only emotional pain. He spent 15 minutes like that. Sigh. An audible sigh escaped his lips as he swallowed the pill. Just then, several guards came and dragged him away, throwing him into his room. They'll be coming for you soon. Pick up your belongings and don't dirty our clan with your filthy feet. Before, they had treated him with respect, but now they despised him with scorn and whispers. It was the price of being banished. Lewis said nothing, though he stored their faces, one by one, deep in his mind. Chapter 5, Destined Path. Locked in his room, he sat on his bed and looked out the window at the beautiful city below. He couldn't see the beautiful landscape of a civilization above the clouds that he had seen before, but this place was also beautiful. Despite the peace, he couldn't enjoy it. His mind was in a dilemma of feelings. New feelings clashed with those that wanted to be indifferent to this. For the current Lewis, the god of thunder shouldn't mean that much. But he was in a body that wasn't his own, one that had deep-rooted feelings of admiration and adoration for his father. He couldn't ignore them completely. Sigh. A long sigh escaped his mouth. I'd better check the system, he whispered. Lewis Lockward status window. Race, human son of God, level 1. Class, god of money, SSS. Statistics. HP, 100/100. Mana, 34/34. Out, 5. Vitality, 5. Agility, 5. Intelligence, 10. Perception, innate 100. 11 stat points available. Nothing had changed except that he now had 10 additional stat points. There wasn't much information in his memory about leveling up, so he couldn't do anything about it right now. But he always remembered why his younger sister was so highly valued for being able to travel between worlds. She could easily find hunting grounds. So, he figured he would have to level up by killing beasts. He left the stats for later and decided to focus on the destined path. His thoughts were interrupted when a system window popped up with the usual sound. New mission. Choose your destined path. Previous reward, 10 system coins. New reward, 100 system coins. Choose wisely. Another mission? Surprise radiated from his eyes, and a smile formed on his face. Something good among so many bad things. He encouraged himself and looked at the destined path section once more. As someone from the modern world, everything he saw caught his attention. Magic, swords, and martial arts. Things he had read too much about during his life. As an avid reader of fantasy novels, he longed to cast spells, wield swords, and so on. Thanks to that, he discovered video games and enjoyed them to the fullest. He even took up martial arts because of his love for them. It was only natural that he was interested in each path. In addition, there were magicians, casters, enhancers, and illusionists in his inherited memories, and it was fascinating to see them. But, despite all that caught his attention, there was a path he couldn't ignore. Armamentalist, he thought. A magical path that explores firearms of different ranges, used as magical catalysts. It sounded peculiar, but interesting. It gave a perfect, modern touch to a magical world. Besides, he suddenly looked away from the system and opened a drawer under his wide, comfortable bed. There lay a slightly peculiar firearm, but beautiful in every way. It was a revolver, in simple terms.
but much more beautiful than any of them.
It rested in a leather holster that could be wrapped around the waist. It was an unusual weapon for the era in which this world is set, where the Middle Ages, the Victorian era, and slightly futuristic themes such as giant flying ships are mixed together. Its short, sturdy barrel, with intricate dragon-like details, had a perfect charm and complete harmony with the rest of the weapon. It was silver, and every detail seemed sculpted in gold or some other shiny metal.
Whoever created the details of this weapon was a great gunsmith. Its beauty slightly overshadowed Lewis and reminded him a little of one of the weapons used by the protagonist of his favorite novel, The Lord Mysterious. It also reminded him of the person who gave it to him, his younger sister. Although she insisted that it had been sent by their mother, of whom he had few but fond memories. Since childhood, he had been fascinated by firearms, especially those he could wield with one hand, like the old revolvers in his favorite novel. Snipers also had their own charm. Thanks to that novel, his love of guns, and this wonderful weapon in his hand, he thought he might try the armamentalist path. He knew it. He wasn't like everyone else.
He could take several paths if he wanted to, so he could always return to safer paths if something went wrong. His mind wandered a little, considering everything. He looked at his revolver once more.
A fleeting memory crossed his mind, that night on Earth.
He was 12 years old, and his parents were still alive. They bought him a toy gun that he loved. His dream was to be invincible, someone who could decide the course of a fantasy story with a single shot. He had seen this in a movie that he couldn't remember the name of right now, but it fascinated him. Magic, swords, martial arts are things I'm sure I'll try someday.
But for now, he made up his mind.
He looked at the system and pressed the fourth option.
Congratulations!
You have chosen the armamentalist path as your first path. It is a little explored path with little research available.
Some information to get you started will be transmitted to your mind.
The system store has been activated, initial setup for an armamentalist.
Congratulations! You have completed the mission.
100 system coins have been credited. You have received 10 stat points.
Following the messages, a certain amount of information about using weapons and other things entered his head.
In addition, a new section appeared in his status window.
Lewis Lockward status window. Race, human, son of God, level 1. Class, God of Money, SSS. Occupation, armamentalist, first sequence, novice armsman.
At the same time, 2 skills were unlocked for him.
Revolver enhanced shot, level 1.
After gathering some passive energy inside you, you can transfer it through an armamentalist weapon to the bullets inside it to fire them. Each shot will use the maximum power of your strength attribute.
It is a physical attribute shot. Each level you ascend will give you 1 free use stat point.
Use it to level up.
Wow, that's a good skill, he thought.
Reading the skill information made him want to use it, so he looked at his weapon.
It was reloaded.
Then he looked around his room for a target and smiled when he found a painting on the wall. He wasn't a fan of destroying art, but he needed to try out his skill. He stood up and grabbed the revolver, putting his finger on the trigger.
It wasn't soft or hard, it was perfect.
The grip of the gun fit perfectly in his hand. Then he aimed at the painting.
When he thought he was aiming at the right spot, he activated his ability. Click asterisk.
A strange sound told him he was ready to fire, so he didn't hesitate.
Bang asterisk.
The revolver's sound was soft, elegant, and toned.
The bullet was extremely fast, hitting one of the corners of the painting.
The shot destroyed the painting, even though it only hit one corner.
It also left a mark on the wall with the bullet embedded in it. What power!
His eyes shone brightly, curving his lips. He completely ignored that he had missed the spot he wanted to hit. It wasn't important right now, as it was his first time wielding a gun. In addition, he was completely satisfied with the power and what he had seen.
This wasn't just any shot, it seemed like a magical shot.
And that was precisely what he needed. After calming down, he looked at the system, and his second skill was there.
Hunter Gunman Agility, level 1.
When you activate this skill, you gain the speed, agility, and dexterity of a hunter gunslinger.
Agility, plus 10%.
Each level you advance will give you 1 agility stat point and increase the percentage of agility gained from activating it.
It's simple, he thought as he read it. He didn't want to try it out, so he sat back down.
Skills are just an important bonus to his abilities, they're not his entire power. Now, he decided to check out the system shop once he verified his skills and knew how to use them. Seeing what he could buy there was also very important.